All of our goals in relationships is to figure out how to build, find, and have a happy relationship, right? Happy, healthy one that can last. So I want to give you three really key green flags, signs, right? That your relationship is going to thrive. Yes, there could be more signs and green flags than just these three, but these are three core pillar ones that really sets the tone for a healthy foundation that is meant to go the mile, right? And the first piece, the first one is whenever your relationship, and so everything I'm going to say here too, by the way, is collective. Is both of you guys contribute to this, not just one of you is doing it or what have you. But whenever your relationship has a sense of mutual growth woven into the fabric, meaning you both support each other's goals, ambitions, and dreams in a very stabilizing way, right? And I'm saying it that way because it doesn't have to mean that you support each other's goals and dreams and ambitions to the same exact degree, because maybe one of you is more ambitious than the other one. Maybe one of you is building something that takes more pieces or components or what have you and requires a little more support than the other person. Or maybe one of you is more independent and doesn't need it, all the things. But you both feel a sense of support and reinforcement from the other person, and it's reciprocal. So this means you both encourage each other's personal and professional development, right? Like you're invested into your partner becoming a better them and pushing themselves, whatever that looks like, in a multitude of arenas, whether it be going to go take that career opportunity, starting that business, right? Or maybe overcoming a fear of theirs that they have, or, building a skill set that they feel they're weak in and you're encouraging them to take it on, right? Rooting them on to work through challenges. You're always behind them being jet fuel to their personal development, self-improvement. And this is so crucial of a thing because whenever you provide this to each other and it becomes this back and forth bounce of a ball, it's one of the biggest foundational ways we subconsciously feel valued by our partners. Whenever the thing that matters so much to you, right, towards your growth, towards evolving as a person, towards becoming the best version of yourself, is also at the top or a high priority for your partner on their list, it makes you feel completely seen and that your vested interest in making you a better you are just as important to your partner as it is to you, which makes you feel like your partner is an extension of you, right? And that makes your partner more precious to you. And then when you give that same love back in return and that support back in return, then now to your partner, you become invaluable as well, to where you both feel just a overwhelming sense of value within inside of the relationship as a unit. And it becomes infectious to the environment that is around you guys. Second thing to look out for is if you and your partner have shared vulnerability in non-emotional situations, that is a huge green flag. And I'm going to tell you why. It's much easier, even though it can be a difficult experience, right? But it's more on time. It's more on brand. It makes more sense, if you will, to be able to be vulnerable whenever it comes to difficult situations, right? Or really tough conversations that need to be had, or conversations where the emotions are already high. It may be difficult for someone sometimes to express their emotions, but overall, that type of a conversation atmosphere is a lot easier to work towards opening up because the stakes are so high. And it's like, I got to get this off my chest, or I got to express this. I got to put this out there. I need to tell my partner this because I'm really struggling internally, right? So when the stakes are high, that's a lot easier to be vulnerable, or at least it makes more sense. It's more expected. But whenever you can still be vulnerable in non-stressful situations, non-intense conversations, everyday things, everyday life, that starts saying so much more for you guys' sustainability to thrive for a long time. See, when you're able to be vulnerable about non-stressful things like, just admitting that you don't know something, or that you have uncertainty around mundane decisions, right? Or even, admitting or being open about minor insecurities you have, things that are not life-changing things, right? Not game changers, but they're still vulnerable parts of you. The reason why this is so important, or that's so significant and such a green flag, is because it shows and is symbolic that the level of trust and security within the relationship is so deep that you feel comfortable being vulnerable about light things, lighthearted things, and not just the deep stuff. Like on a lighter level, on a regular everyday level, you feel free enough and secure enough and safe enough to just say things that could expose or, highlight an insecurity or some sort of a, emotional thing that you usually wouldn't share with people, even though it's not that deep, but you usually wouldn't share it because it's not that deep. And it's something that you have a vulnerability around that doesn't feel comfortable to be vulnerable with, right? So whenever you feel that level of comfort about the more impactful things, to the point that on a lighter level, you can be vulnerable in less, stressing and impactful circumstances, it's a byproduct and it's symbolic of how deep the trust goes for you to your partner and vice versa, that you guys feel safe to share vulnerabilities about any and everything, not just the stuff that is game changing for your relationship. And this winds up deepening your connection immensely, because whenever you can be fully vulnerable or carefree in your vulnerability, whenever it's a non-crisis situation or situations, it is screaming, you can be all of you. Right? It screams you feel comfortable enough being you truly, living in your truth with your partner around, which is a rarity often, right? Some people out there are in relationships where they love their partner and they love them back, and it's a loving relationship, but they don't feel secure or safe enough to just freely be themselves fully, or else they think they might be judged, or it might, end badly, or their partner look at them differently now for being them full selves, right? So they, they're not being fake, they're being who they are, but they're being mindful of their presentation, right? They're not just being as to what's raw and what's there and what's just authentic to who they are through and throughout, right? So whenever you feel that level of comfortability to where you can just let it all be seen and be vulnerable in that way without fear at all that you're going to be judged or ridiculed or rejected by your partner for it, that's a huge green flag that your relationship has an awesome foundational piece of bonding. And a third, and some may say biggest green flag sign, right, is whenever you and your partner more seamlessly or harmoniously can integrate your lives together, right? To where it doesn't feel like pulling teeth to actually become one. Yes, you're always going to have a thing or two that is going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum because you're two different people, right? You don't see every single thing exactly the same, right? Or otherwise you're pretty much dating or in a relationship with yourself, right? But it feels like it makes sense with you guys integrating your lives, whether it be your social circles, your families and so forth, or even, individual hobbies versus shared hobbies and activities that you do together, right? It doesn't feel like you are losing a sense of your identity to be with your partner, right? Whenever you have that, and it doesn't feel like you had to move mountains to make it that, to where it wasn't like you were trying to force that square peg in that round hole and cutting new corners just to make it work so that you actually can blend things, then that's when you have a great backing for sustainability in your relationship. Because what it's saying is that you have actual chemistry and compatibility mixed into one, right? To where not only do you have the same, maybe similar beliefs and so forth and way of seeing the world, but your way of operating as the individuals that you are coming together has a chemistry where it flows, it balances, it works together as a blend, right? It's not like, a chemical equation to where it's explosive in the elements reject each other, or they're always in a tussle or a constant battle, right? It feels more at peace during this integration and feels like, oh, this makes sense, not like I had to figure this out. A big piece of this green flag is not just how well you guys just operate together in the space together, it's also how you complement each other's individuality to where it doesn't feel awkward or weird when one or both of you needs your individual moments. You having your individual time or something that's just for you is not a threat to your partner, and vice versa. Does it feel like you're losing out or getting less of what you require by them getting what they need for themselves by themselves, right? To where there's a more harmonious space of, okay, I do these things. This is in my lane and this is for me. And your partner is completely okay with that. And vice versa. When they're doing the same thing, you're completely okay with them taking their time. But then you both equally get the right amount of time you need together in the same space to where you feel like your glass is being full of having enough of your partner, but also as to still being an individual, it feels like you have time to breathe and space just for you, right? And it doesn't feel like pulling teeth to have that dynamic. It kind of flows in that way, right? Or it kind of, is respected and honored in a way that is enjoyable, not apprehensive, right? Or not in a way that's like guarded or, reluctantly. It's probably the best word to use. Like you or your partner don't feel like, I'm doing this work to let you have your space, right? It makes sense. You complement each other in that way. And when you truly carry this green flag in your relationship, it really, really prevents codependency from forming and maintains balance. And ultimately, it really fosters the individual growth that you both must continue to do for yourselves so you both can be great for each other as a unit. So it really helps foster and encourage the individual growth, and then unify growth together to where you pull it together and it works beautifully for the long haul. So ultimately in your relationship, ask yourself, hey, does it feel like we really push each other and support each other to grow and always evolve as people, individually, right? Are we supporting what matters to each of us most? Do I feel like my most important things are my partner's most important things? Do I feel like they're an extension of me when it comes to growing, right? Next, ask yourself, do I feel comfortable being vulnerable about any and everything, right? Does it feel safe to just be me fully and be transparent, living my truth, and like I'm not going to be judged, but I'm just going to be embraced and loved unconditionally by my partner? Or does it feel like, I have to kind of, water down me in some way, right? But if it feels like you can be you fully and be vulnerable about even the small things as much as the deep things, second green flag, right? And lastly, just ask yourself, how easy is it to blend our lives? Do I feel like I'm losing some of me to be with them? Or does it feel like me being me and merging my life with theirs makes sense? Does it feel right? And if you have all three of these green flags at work, it's a great sign your relationship's meant to go the mile. You just have to make sure you're doing your work in between there to continue to build the effective communication skills and conflict resolution skills for when you do face some of the challenges on that road that sometimes can seem bigger than they are and ruin a relationship that is built to go the mile because you can't get past the roadblocks that all relationships come to and find at different points in your journey. Let's get it.